and Crawl in theaters everywhere July 12th.
Closer look at the Kawhi sweepstakes. They feature 3 teams, and they each have a unique case in their quest for the claw. Toronto's pitch. Here we go. Run it back. The Raptors return virtually the same team Kawhi thrived with last season, and his comfort was evident in Toronto. As for the Lakers, how about the chance to assemble a cast that would make the Avengers blush? A super team featuring possibly 3 of the top 5 players in the world joining LeBron and the Brow there. And don't sleep on the other team in LA, the Clippers. Like the Lakers, it would be a homecoming for Kawhi in Southern California, but he would also be the man on a team that gave the Warriors problems in the postseason. It's great to have Woj back with us here. Where Kawhi decides to play next season will have major ramifications around the league. And where do things currently stand right now?
Well, those 3 teams you just mentioned, Kevin, Toronto, and the 2 LA teams, the Clippers, Lakers, are in the process over yesterday, today, and possibly tomorrow, sitting down with Kawhi Leonard, making their case to him. And then there's an expectation among the teams that there'll be a decision, sometime, there's no belief there'll be one today, but either sometime tomorrow, July 4th, or maybe it even goes another day. But this, Kawhi Leonard is taking time here. The decks have been cleared. Kevin Durant's off the board. Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker, and the whole basketball world is waiting on Kawhi Leonard's decision. The balance of power in this league sways with it.
It's funny, too. It feels like forever. It's only Tuesday. It's only been 48 hours since free agency began, and he's going on his own time. Do you have an understanding of the lineup here? Because we have heard that the Raptors would have the final pitch. Do they still stand in that order? Yeah, that's what I had reported, that the Raptors were expected to get the final word. And that's kind of like Gordon Hayward in Utah. They got in last, and, it's almost a courtesy to the incumbent team. But I think sometimes these meetings and presentations can be oversold in their importance. The player knows, he has thought a lot about it. He is educated on all these situations. He's been around the league a long time and knows what it looks like everywhere. Sometimes, gaining a connection with somebody in the room, whether it's Doc Rivers, whether it's Ginny Buss in a Laker meeting, that helps. But sometimes I think the importance of these sit-downs is a little bit oversold. Now, keep this in mind, too. The Raptors, they could just sell, of course, the championship and the team and the roster coming back, and they have the chance to offer him the most money. Woj, thank you so much.
All right, guys, if Kawhi decides to stay in Toronto, this is the roster situation he would be going back to. 5 of the team's top 6 scorers from last postseason are in the final year of their contracts. That includes Pascal Siakam, who will be a restricted free agent next summer. Let's bring in Bobby Marks, our NBA front office insider. Bob, you've been in these conversations that GMs and assistant GMs have in terms of what your roster is. I'm going to put you in the chair right now, Masai Ujiri. This is what you have right now. But if Kawhi leaves, now what do you do?
Well, I'm bringing it back. And I'm going to set a January 1st deadline as far as where this roster is going to be. Because I think when we look at it, and we're going to take Kawhi out, and we'll replace him with Norm Powell. And we're going to take Danny Green out, and we'll replace him with Fred VanVleet. This group went 17-5 when Leonard didn't play. So this is a good team. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to have a fire sale come this summer. I'm going to bring back this group here. We still have Serge Ibaka, OG Anunoby, and I'm going to, this is my group. And if where we are January 1st, if we are struggling, if we are below 500, and maybe even think we're going to be out of playoff contention, yes, then I'm going to look at, because expiring contract, untouchable,
yeah,
right?
You're going to keep him, no doubt.
Close to untouchable right now, and also Serge Ibaka is on an expiring contract. So you've got the pieces to move down the road. But for right now, without Leonard, this group comes back.
Yeah, it's often said around the NBA, if you're about 25, 30 games in, you kind of are who you are, and by January 1st.
ESPN insider and resident roster management guru Bobby Marks live with us on Get Up. And we talked about the Warriors. He sort of went through the construction of their roster as they stand. And then he dropped a bomb on me that I was not expecting. He just said something that I did not know was coming. Bobby Marks looked at me and said, Greeny, I do not believe the Warriors are going to make the playoffs this year. Now, this is a person whose opinion I value very strongly. I'm told we do have the sound of that. This was Bobby Marks this morning on Get Up.
Well, Greeny, this is what the roster looks like right now, and I think when we look at it, this is probably what the team will look like in March, not in October or November, certainly with Klay Thompson with the injury. And when we'll put a young player like Jacob Evans in here, your team that you're going to be rolling into the season with. And remember, this team is faced with the hard cap, the 138.9. they cannot go out and add talent except for players on the minimum contract. And unless these type of players are going to come here on a cheap deal, certainly a player like maybe Jamal Crawford or Jared Dudley, Tyson Chandler, Joakim Noah, this is going to be your rosters. You're going to be built out with 5 players on minimum contracts. And Greeny, I'm going to make a bold prediction here. This group will not make the playoffs next year.
This group will not make the playoffs next year, said Bobby Marks. Again, a person whose expertise and analysis on this I value as much as anyone's. So I got Timmy Legler back with us here, and Zach Lowe has made his way in. But Jalen, I'll give you first crack at this as well, because you were not here this morning. You heard him say it. Bobby Marks says the Warriors are going to miss the playoffs this year. Do you agree?
I disagree. Now, they won't be hosting a first-round playoff series, and it's not so very far off that one injury, one poor season from a big-time player in their rotation puts them fighting for 8th. But if you say they're not going to make the playoffs, to me, what you're saying is Steph Curry should never have been a unanimous MVP in this league on a 73-win team. And you're saying to me Draymond Green is not going to play like a max player, which I think he is next year in the final year of his deal. And Klay Thompson will return at some point of the season. I anticipate the Golden State Warriors will be in the playoffs.
Take me on the court, Legler. How good do you think the Warriors are? Are they a playoff team in the West?
Look, it's not an outrageous statement, because when you really look at the Western Conference and you look at some of these other teams, obviously, particularly if Kawhi Leonard goes to the Clippers, right, or the Lakers, obviously, but even if he doesn't go to the Lakers, we assume they're going to make the playoffs with AD and LeBron?
Yes, the Lakers will make it.
So they're in. They weren't last year. So the question then becomes, are the Golden State Warriors still going to be better than a Clippers team if they don't get Kawhi, than a San Antonio Spurs team? Those are the teams you're going to have to hold off to make it, and I believe they will. And a lot of it's because of what he just said. The greatness of Steph Curry, to me, I think is what maybe we've forgotten a little bit about. He gave us kind of a reminder when KD went down for a short period of time, what that guy is still capable of and how much better he makes everybody else on the floor. And also, we're discounting what D'Angelo Russell's contribution is going to be. He might thrive playing in that fast open floor system with that kind of talent around him.
D'Angelo Russell as a pure point playing alongside Steph, who can then play in more of a catch and shoot role. You and I were talking about this yesterday. Steph could set a record for most threes made in a season. I find this astonishing. Personally, I think it is greatly devaluing a lot of the great players on this team to suggest they will fall that far. Zach, let's talk about the roster construction and what, if anything, they can still do to get better while they wait for Klay to come back.
But they can't do much. I mean, they're just going to beg guys to go there on minimum contracts. They have maybe a little teensy bit of the mid-level exception to try and get somebody back. Maybe that's all DeMarcus Cousins takes, but there ain't much they can do.
But didn't they sign D'Angelo Russell with at least some intention of trading him, trying to flip him for pieces? You're suggesting that's not happening until a year down the road?
Yeah, I don't know that that's an immediate thing. Right now, they need him to play. As long as Klay's hurt, they need him to play. And I think Jalen's point is a good one that people forget. We look at these rosters and we just see the names there, but like every team takes an injury at some point during the year, and they are 15-game Steph Curry ankle sprain from absolutely being at risk of missing the playoffs. I mean, Utah loading up, Portland loading up, Denver, Lakers, Clippers, Spurs, Rockets, Thunder. That's 9 teams right there. Who's missing the playoffs out of that group?
And I would add others. I think the Mavericks are getting much better. I think that the Pelicans are getting much better. It's not going to be easy to get into the playoffs, but I find it impossible to believe that a team that has Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, adding an all-star as they did in D'Angelo Russell, will not find a way to get into the playoffs.
And depending on where Kawhi signs, the league has morphed from having big threes to big twos.
I'm not laying my money on them not getting in.
Well, right?
I agree. They're going to get the playoffs.
Yes.
One thing about that, 4 seasons worth of Steph and Draymond with Klay and KD on the bench, they're plus like 300 in 1,000 minutes. Like those two have been that dynamic. Now the bench was better, the supporting cast was better, but like those two are that good.
All right, I want to bring Richard and Jay back into this conversation over there. Guys, what do you think? You heard it, Jay.
Yeah.
Warriors out of the playoffs?
Greeny, I agree with Bobby Marks. I think they barely miss it. Their bench was better, and Zach brings up that point about their bench having the depth. And one of the things people don't talk about, RJ, with the Warriors, D'Lo, obviously isn't that great defensively. He ranked last defensively for the Brooklyn Nets, okay? Yeah. Stephen Curry, we've seen him be hid defensively, where Klay Thompson has the best on-ball defender for the Warriors. Think about how loaded the West is with their guards. That's going to be the primary offensive attack of anybody when they play against them. Attack them defensively, maybe potentially get them in foul trouble. And I think the depth of the West is drastically different. Way much deeper. They don't have the depth.
It is, but how many teams have 20 points a game? that won't be in the postseason next year.
But we don't know when Klay's coming back.
No. Oh, no. The Warriors have 2 All-Stars. D'Angelo Russell was an All-Star last year at 22. So our goal here is to say that he's going to